Hey, it's Kyle here, and it's time for my annual tradition to count down my favorite books that I read in that previous year at the end of the year. And so this video I'll be highlighting my 5 favorite nonfiction books that I read in 2023. To make it clear, these are books I read in 2023, not necessarily were published in 2023. I'll also be doing videos to highlight my favorite fiction novels I read and my favorite Star Wars books that I read in 2023. So if you're interested in those videos, those will also be going up on this channel beginning in January in 2024. So be sure to check those out. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely really appreciate the support. And for all the books featured in today's video, there are individual reviews for them up on my channel. So, browse around, check those out if you're interested in learning more about these books that I'm going to highlight. And with that being said, here's my 5 favorite nonfiction books that I read in 2023. First up, you have Brothers Down by Walter Bornean. This is a book about World War II and specifically focusing on siblings, brothers, who served together in the U.S. Navy during World War II. Specifically during the attack on Pearl Harbor, and kind of exploring the number of families that were basically wiped out when several brothers on one ship were killed, or in some cases, like maybe one brother died and one survived and stuff like that. And it kind of explores the Navy's practice at the time of placing family members together, which as the war went on, they began to not do that because they realized after stuff like this, maybe it's not the best idea in the world to put a lot of relatives on one ship in case something happens for them. It can basically wipe an entire family out. So this is a very fascinating look at Pearl Harbor, but through the viewpoint of individuals and how this attack that really changed world history had such a huge impact on these individual families, because you did have these family members serving on certain ships together. It's a very more personal look at a very important historical event than you typically get in nonfiction books, and I really did enjoy it. So that's why I would recommend Brothers Down by Walter Bornean. My 4th favorite nonfiction book in 2023 is River of the Gods by Candice Millard. This book is specifically about a couple European explorers who are trying to discover the source of the Nile, and there are a couple expeditions they launched in Africa to try to discover this source. So it's very much a venture book, but at the same time it really explores the two personalities of these two individuals and how this quest really kind of destroyed both of their lives, and how their personalities played into this, and how history came to view both of them. One is not viewed so well now and it's kind of been forgotten. The other one's kind of viewed as a leading figure in several different academic fields, and how the perception of history can change over the course of time. I've read another book by Candice Millard that I actually honestly enjoyed a little bit more. This book, I would say the first half of the book, I actually loved it. I would say after the first half of the book, I thought, oh, this is going to be my favorite nonfiction book that I've read this year. The second half of the book I didn't find quite as interesting. Partly based on, the first half of the book is kind of based on the journals of one of the explorers, and that explorer kept very detailed journals, so the author had a lot to work off on. The second half of the book kind of relies a little bit more on the other explorer, and that explorer did not keep the best records. So that part of the book is a little bit more vague and not able to get into many of the details I found so fascinating in the first half of the book, which pulled my ranking down a little bit. So instead of being my favorite nonfiction book that I read in 2023, still ranks highly, still my 4th favorite, but that's why I didn't quite earn that first spot. But if you're kind of interested in like man versus nature type books, and kind of exploring the personality and individual challenge that involves, think of something like Into Thin Air is probably a great example of that. If you enjoy that type of book, I think this is a book that you will enjoy. Next up, my 3rd favorite nonfiction book that I read in 2023 is Crusaders by Dan Jones. And I will say, I'm always curious at the end of the year. I always look and see what video did I post get the most views that year. And for 2023, sorry, this book was actually my most viewed video. So I guess people on the channel really enjoy this review a lot. I enjoyed this book a lot. Did it quite get the #1 spot? I would have liked to gone into a little bit more detail about the history of the Crusades, but there's a very good reason why I did it, because this book really tries to explore the history of all the Crusades, and if the author went really detailed into all of them, it probably would have been a 1,000 to 2,000 page book. Instead, this is supposed to kind of give you, kind of an introduction to the various Crusades and the individuals involved and what happened and how they transpired, the success level of each, and how the nature of what a crusade was changed over the course of a period of time. So it gives you a good entry level. If you're kind of interested in learning some about the Crusades, but you've never read a book about the Crusades, this is a good way to kind of get like, oh, this is what the overall historical event was like. And then I think if you find this interesting, I would encourage you to check out other books and then maybe explore certain events within the Crusades in more details. But I've read a couple books by Dan Jones in the past. I really enjoy his writing style. He makes his nonfiction books very entertaining to read. And I would certainly recommend Crusaders by Dan Jones. My second favorite nonfiction book that I read in 2023 is The Unfinished Presidency by Douglas Brinkley. This book explores the presidency of Jimmy Carter, but really focuses more on what he did after he left the presidency. Many people that know anything about Jimmy Carter know he's had one of the more active post-presidency careers in American political history, from being an active diplomat to being involved in nonprofits like Habitat Humanity and a variety of other things. He's had a very fascinating life, and this book does an amazing job exploring that. Like, if you've been watching the news lately, you know Jimmy Carter's ending the end of his life, and depending on when you watch this review, he might have already passed away. But I found it very moving to kind of read about his career while his life is coming to an end, basically. I think it's very inspiring to show what individuals can do and the positive impact they can make. At the same time, I'll say, by no means does the author present like everything that Jimmy Carter's ever done. He like made the correct decision. The author very much points out moments where it's like, this is where Jimmy Carter made a mistake, or he didn't have the best judgment in this case. But in the end, every time the author is very clear, like he was trying to do the right thing, even though maybe his decision here wasn't the best one. He was still trying to do the best thing he could to just make the world a better place. So if you're interested in learning more about Jimmy Carter, I'd certainly recommend this book, The Unfinished Presidency by Douglas Brinkley. I almost picked this one on my number one spot, but at the end I had to go with Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. I'm sure many people have seen the movie that came out this year, which I did. I enjoyed it, but I'll say I enjoyed the book a little bit more. So I would say if you've seen the movie and you liked it, but you kind of want to learn more about the case, read this book, because this is the book the movie's based on, and the movie, just because of the nature of being a movie, had to leave out a lot of information and a lot of facts about it, the case, and this book really explores it a lot. This book has more of a mystery element too. So if you're not familiar with Killers of the Flower Moon, it's about a series of killings in the Osage Nation in the early 1900s. Basically, the reservation happened to contain a lot of oil reserves, and as the Osage began to become very rich because of this, members of their tribe began to be murdered in mysterious circumstances. And this book explores that case. The movie, if you watch the movie, basically they kind of reveal right away kind of who's behind the case. One reason I like the book more, the book kind of presents it as a little bit more of a mystery, and you get to see how this case was kind of solved, and everything that went into it, and all the bad stuff that still happened even after it was solved. So, very fascinating book about, I think, a period of American history that really wasn't that well known about until this book came out, and now the movie's highlighted it even more. So I'd certainly recommend checking out The Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. I really enjoy his writing style a lot. Makes a very entertaining nonfiction book. But at the same time, it's not the funnest read in the world, because it is a very somber moment of American history. There's not a lot of fun things in this book. It's a lot of negative stuff, but it's still a very interesting read. So those are my 5 favorite nonfiction books I read in 2023. Let me know in the comment section below, what was your favorite nonfiction book that you read in the year? I'm curious to see your recommendations. I might check them out. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching. I'll see you the next time, and happy reading.